What's up? It is 2 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to the Cannabis Legalization News, where we explain marijuana laws so you can change them. Today, we're joined by Matt Cohen from Purewanna, America's first live cannabis spirit. But first, we're going to talk about California's market. Miggy.
Yay.
Tom, what's going on in California? Am I coming in clear? I feel like I'm chopped.
No, you're good.
Okay.
To me, you seem clear, but I can never tell. It's one of the problems of doing a live show on the internet. Somebody is usually drinking your milkshake. If for the Los Angeles Times reporting, it is for, do you know what percentage of California's license holders don't have their full license?
I don't know, because you're talking about traditional market versus recreational, right?
The traditional market does not require a license.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're asking what percentage, and there's people operating who,
yeah, perhaps. But as a result of these onerous regulations, 82% of the state's cannabis licenses still hold provisional licenses as of April. And so there's these two levels of licenses that exist in California. So when California voters approved Prop 64 5 years ago, they directed the legislature to create a legal, well-regulated cannabis market. And of course, they have not done that. But it's only been 5 years. What's 5 years when you tune into Cannabis Legalization News? Thanks for joining us. If you think license limits are garbage, smash that like. And then let's talk about what's going on with the licenses out in California. So there's these provisional licenses, and they were awarded those provisional licenses, and then they have to make the transformation from the provisional temporary license they have to renew every year to a permanent one, which they also have to renew every year. And that is a costly, complicated, and time-consuming review of the negative environmental effects involved in a business plan for reducing those harms.
So the article is the 100 million is going towards to help change this industry. I just think it's kind of funny. They made what did I say in revenue? $3 billion according to Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy. So it just seems to me like they're investing 100 million for more of that stable tax revenue. You know what I mean? Like,
well, they should.
How hard is it though to change it from, like, when Oregon went from medical to recreational? It was just a turn of the hat, right? You just all of a sudden there's no application process. Why couldn't they just say, okay, you do have this temporary one, we're gonna make them all permanent now?
What if the traditional market's like, hey, we're fine, well, let's just make this regulated market impossible to navigate, and then both of them win. You can have the good people that have their licenses, and then the other people that believe in, like, I don't need a license. I know what the law says. I don't care. I've been in cash my whole life.
Well, that's happening still. I mean, there was just a $500 million raid in LA County or some shit like that, like a huge grow, which probably was operating normally every day, like, under the medical guys, right? Like, it was a medical, and then people transitioned to this BS recreational market. But why 100 million? Why? It just seems to me like it's paperwork issue. And then why?
Out of that 100 million, 22 million of it's going to LA, and the city's going to hire experts and staff to assist businesses in completing the environmental studies and transitioning the licenses to help legitimate businesses succeed. So they have to do all these environmental studies, and who's doing those?
Oh, I see. So, like, that's where this money will be going to, most likely, studies, and because it's not really going to, like, helping aid someone to pay for these fees or whatnot. It makes it sound like that.
All these fees, they do make it more expensive to do the cannabis business. But then the environmental studies, okay, great. Are you telling me that you don't understand what cannabis does to the environment? Is that why they have to do the environmental studies, or is it a feasibility? So they aren't going to impact the environment at all. A lot of the time with the anti-nuisance parts of the application, they have to go above and beyond those to ensure that their operations aren't going to be impacting their environment in a negative way.
It seems to me an environment study at this point, though, you can see the effects already for these. California has a long history of cannabis. Our guest coming up is a California in the regulated side of things, which I find quite interesting.
That's right. And so the governor also wants to give the cannabis businesses 6 months beyond the January 1st deadline to transition from these provisional licenses to complying with the California Environmental Quality Act. So not only that, when you get that license, then you got to comply with all these other regulations, like the Environmental Quality Act in California.
Well, hopefully you do that already.
Yeah. I don't know if they do. I mean, like sometimes agricultural operations are exempt from certain air quality things. So like in Colorado, because cannabis is an agricultural crop, they have exemptions from a lot of the regulations, the nuisance regulations, which, depends on which state we're looking at. So in this one, it doesn't look like they have that. Mandates from the California Environmental Quality Act, because, that's what I think about in California, quality environments. And so they do have opposition from delaying the promised environmental safeguard. And those have not been included in the state budget bill that was approved on Monday, and it's still being negotiated.
But why? What it just all seems very excessive because, for this, they make it harder than it has to be. You have these provisional license, who wants to be the players in the market, just let them. How hard, and in the environmental studies, I agree. Like, as we said before, you like the regulation all the way from seed to sale. I think certain things like, I agree. Like, when something gets weighed into the regular market, that's when, like 100 pounds of broccoli gets checked out before it leaves the farm. It doesn't get checked from the beginning of the seed, right? So same thing, but in California, they have the ability to make this right. But they're making it harder than it has to be. And it just seems to be that the politics, California is not the hippy dippy land that most people think it is. I'm from Oceanside, San Diego, and San Diego has a hard on against fucking weed for some reason. Like, they've been fighting medical for years. And I think our guest might be able to attest to that if he's from California. Like, he knows more about it because I spent 10 years in the military in between. So I don't
remember. And then the state officials, after Prop 64 in 2016, which again, 5 years ago, they thought that they were going to get as many as 6,000 cannabis shops in the first few years. But you know how many permits they've issued instead?
Yeah, because how hard did they make it?
That's 1,000, like just 1,086.
And again, it's just like every state's fucked it up. Every state so far has their own issues of how regulation should be. But like, I agree, like, like the nuisance stuff or the, checking the plant, pesticides, certain things should be regulated about this plant. Like, air regulation, definitely. Like, if you're doing business like that, the place that got raided, I would hopefully they already had all the proper charcoal filters and whatnot, and they're just being dinged for being a grow, which is still horrible. But there's certain things that you can do and abide by, I think.
This bill was just approved on Monday to give all this money. It's that $100 million, and it identifies 17 cities because there's a lot of local control in California cannabis. And among those cities are Los Angeles. They get the largest one. And then there's Long Beach, San Francisco, Oakland, Commerce, Adelanto, and Desert Hot Springs. Which one do you think our guest is from?
LA, right?
Well, let's find out.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, guys.
Thanks so much for coming on Cannabis Legalization News. Can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Absolutely. My name is Matt Cohen. I'm the CEO of Lively Spirits.
What is Lively Spirits?
Lively Spirits is a company that makes beverages focusing on dry spirits. So spirits made from psychotropic plants that are in a powder form factor to power alternative to alcohol cocktails. Our first brand is Purewanna, and Purewanna delivers a strain-specific aroma, taste, and effect to your cocktail.
And I love that you're vertically integrated, correct?
From the factory backwards, yes, up the supply chain. We're not vertical with retail.
So then you guys own every single step of it from your growers, or do you have contracts with the growers?
We control it. We have contracts with the nurseries that hold our genetics. We have contracts with the farms that go to our best practices and have oversight from our supply chain manager. And then we're the guys that say that's ready, let's pick it, and we haul it off.
Wow, that's awesome, and that's really cool. How many different licenses do you have to work with? Because you have these contracts, you guys hold a license. How many other licenses before that supply chains hits your operation?
So there's the nursery license. There's the transport license that brings the clones to the farm. There's the cultivation license that grows the material. Same transport license moves it back to the processing facility, and then the processing facility moves it to distro. And after it comes out of quarantine, it then finds its way to the delivery services and to the retailers.
Wow. Look at that. That is a fully established licensing scheme, unlike the very crude ones that we have in Illinois, where we just don't hand out licenses. But there's that.
Yeah, you got both extremes, right? You got the merit-based licensing states where the licenses are probably worth $20 million, the piece of paper themselves, and then you got these these non-merit-based licenses. As long as you qualify, you can get a license on the West Coast. It is all, if you're an MSO, you like the merit-based licenses.
Yes, because then you don't have to compete.
Right. If you're an aspiring entrepreneur that's bootstrapping, you probably should be on the West Coast.
So how long has Purewanna been around? Or you guys been around with the? How long have you, Matt, been involved with cannabis per se?
A long time, my whole life. So I got into the legal cannabis business in 1998. Right on the heels of Prop 215 passing. Was a grower for the 3 dispensaries in the world that existed back then, and then ended up running the dispensaries and got into the technology side of the business and the manufacturing side of the business. I became a regulatory consultant at one point to Washington State as they implemented their recreational use laws. Co-founded the Emerald Growers Association, which is now the California Growers Association. I was listening to your conversation before I got on. You guys should really have Kristen Nevedal on this because she'll break it all down to you, all the pros and cons and what's wrong with the regulations and what works. She is an absolute expert at it, and she used to be the executive director over at Emerald Growers Association. Now she's got her own consulting firm.
Well, you've been in California based. I mean, you've done consulting out of state, but like your business side's just been in California because it seems like there's enough hurdles to keep you busy just in that state alone.
Yeah, we incorporated in Oregon partially because there was another leader at the time, and I took over the company about 1.5 years ago. We decided to focus entirely on California. I absolutely think that it's all about focusing on California. California is the biggest market in the world. If you can get your brand to stick in California, you'll be good.
Yeah, if you can actually get your brand in the limited MSO market states, but they're trying to make their own larger brands. So like it really stinks that we can't even get craft cannabis going in Illinois. That's where you would have these types of brand synergies where you have the smaller brands, I would assume, unless you want to be working with the MSOs.
We don't, hey, I'm open to any proposal anybody wants to put in front of me. But the reality is that, Mondavi's not going to, pick up their vineyard out of Napa County and move it to Illinois and be the same company. And we're in the exact same boat as them. We are, this is all about the material, the cost of the material, the quality of the material. It's garbage in, garbage out. And Illinois never going to be able to, compete on the cost of goods and the quality that California can.
Cannabis is definitely regional, right?
Sorry?
Good cannabis is definitely regional, like Appalachian.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you can find some dank flower in some, areas that you wouldn't have predicted before. But the reality is that, you want this stuff to be as close to the equator as possible, as dry as possible, as high in elevation as possible, as cool at nights as possible, and it's Mediterranean climate, and that's not Illinois.
No, it is not, but it is south of Spain, maybe, or like, Italy, or what about Greece? You think we could grow some bomb weed in Greece?
I think you could find some place to grow some bomb. If you can grow decent grapes, you can probably grow decent weed. So the Dutch, one of my lives in this 20-year career was bringing Dutch greenhouse technology to the U.S. through a company called Trike, TRIQ. And as I was working with the Dutch companies and getting them familiar with the cannabis business, I learned that the Dutch, when they first came to the United States, they went straight to Wilcox, Arizona, because Wilcox, Arizona was the most southern, close to the equator as possible. It was high in elevation, so it was closer to the sun, and it was very low. It wasn't extreme temperatures, and it was dry, and it was the perfect place to set up big, giant greenhouse production. It was also on the I-10, right? So for the distribution, but that's the way to think about it. I think a lot of people think like Humboldt, Mendo, right? It just happens to be that that's where the stuff's been grown forever. And I've lived in Mendo for 20 years, but I can grow better weed in Santa Barbara. So,
wow.
Yes, but those areas don't exist all that much in the world. Now, with the Arizona, are they going to have enough water? I mean, like, if we just start putting a crap load of greenhouses there, what would happen?
Wilcox has enough water, and these high-tech greenhouses capture water from the sky too. So it just stuff depends on where you are and where the reservoirs are on the ground.
There's a will, there's a way, right? I mean,
if you got the water, yeah.
You got to have the sun. You got to have the people.
I mean, like somebody slapped the
humidity. Well, the humidity, of course, matters. And so, like, do you think that humidity coming off the Bay Area, or like wherever you're growing those grapes in the morning before the sun gets up there and burns it off, and then the opposite at night, does that even contribute?
Yes, it contributes to botrytis.
Botrytis is some type of fungus.
Botrytis is bud rot.
Bud rot. Yeah. Sounds like a type of fungus. Yeah.
It is a type of fungus, in terms for everybody listening, it's bud rot.
But like farming is definitely prohibition has definitely helped create this plant, like cultivars in each region, like Northwest and Canada were like the predominant back in the day. California always had, with, like you were saying, Humboldt and the Golden Triangle, whatnot. But like you were saying, the ideal grow is like the dry, high areas. But don't you also think like the farming technique, like in each place, you're saying the weed's always going to be greater in the ideal place?
Hey, I mean, I'm coming from the Emerald Growers Association history, and we used to talk about appellation controls and terroir, but I think that's more about the culture, right? It's like if you're in Burgundy and you're talking about grapes, it's all about terroir. It's all about that dirt, right? But if you're talking about cheese, like Roquefort cheese, I think it's more about the people and the process, right? And I think with cannabis, it's more about the people and the process. So if you're talking terroir, than is about the dirt itself. Now, I think you can make arguments for the dirt for sure. But I haven't seen an A/B study that totally proved it to me that, yep, I can taste that goat shit,
But can you taste the difference between like outdoor and indoor? The flavor profiles of really good outdoor weed grown in California. Does that beat like premium indoor flower?
In my opinion, yes, it definitely does. Living soil, intense sun, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
Well, I hope to try it one day. And it'd be great if you guys could export your weed. You do. It's just not allowed. They're doing it, and you're just not supposed to. Yeah.
Yeah, one day, yes, you got to come to California for some cannabis tourism if you want to experience Purewanna. And by the way, if you do, we have some really cool events. You can sign up for our website and come belly up to the bar and have cannabis cocktails.
Awesome. No kidding. Where's the website?
Purewanna.com, Purejuana.com.
And then the in LA?
We're all over the state.
All over the state.
The events are primarily happening in LA right now because we can deliver right to your door from the website in LA.
Oh, nice. But throughout the state, though, you're also doing events, or just primarily?
Yeah, we're focused on LA right now. We've been in the market for 3 months, so it's still early days for us. And COVID, is coming to an end. So we're just, we're being as aggressive as we can down in LA.
Good time to do it, though. I think the pandemic is wrapping up. Like here in Seattle, I'm in Seattle. We're getting so fucking busy. It's like traffic again and people again. And you're like, why are there lines everywhere? And then at the same time, our mask mandate is going to be wrapping up. They're talking about the end of the week or whatever. And it's been a weird year. So you guys are coming in at a great time. So these events that you're offering for drinking, like, is it at like your facilities, or is there like just on site somewhere, like a place that people sign up?
We're doing private events right now. The ideal situation, I think, is that these social consumption lounges, work with the state to change some of the rules so they can actually serve cocktails, right? Because if you own a lounge, how much money do you think you're making with somebody sitting there eating gummy bears, right? Or even smoking joints, even. Like, you sold the joint at the point of sale. Right now, you're in the lounge. You're not making money on that square footage anymore. If a waitress was coming up and serving you cocktails, you'd be making money, right? You're continuing to sell. So ideally, the lounges start realizing how to monetize, right? Because I don't think everybody wants to every Friday and Saturday night go eat a medicated meal. I think that the masses, beverage is a lot more approachable, and it needs to be in that social, familiar setting. So what we're doing is we're emulating that. We're taking over bars, drying the bars out and doing dry bars with Purewanna cocktails. We partner with the world's leading mixologists. So if you go to our website, you can see all the world's leading mixologists have put on excellent cocktail recipes, and yeah, it's fun. So we're just trying to have that ritual all over LA and get people to realize, like, wow, this is an alternative way to, socially imbibe. And
yeah,
how do
we do one of those on here to try to stay compliant at 20 past the hour, which it is. So we're going to do a small little break.
I can't smoke at the secret location I'm at right now, but I did smoke. So, going back to like cultivars and whatnot, I think here in Washington, seed to sell, the big thing is people are fearing are the lack of, right? Like the potato famine that happened with the lack of varieties and shit like that. I smoked this Danny DeVito. Has anybody ever heard of this shit?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Like,
you think he's going to sue them like Skittles?
Oh, hell no, dude. If I was Danny DeVito, I'd be like, yes, thank you. But
well, yeah, and you'd say, but here's the licensing or contract from my attorney.
Yeah, that's just right. See, Danny DeVito wouldn't have been the guy that sued you. It'd be his agent. He's like, fuck that. I get 10% of that noise.
That's right. Exactly.
But like, I've recently fell in love again with God's gift, right? Like I've never been one to like say this is the strain I want to smoke, except for Blue Dream back in the day. For some reason, people were growing Blue Dream everywhere, and I was like, I recognize this. Opposed to like, when we buy weed back in the day, be like, yo, this is fire. And that's all you call it, or this is red hair. I'll call it by what it looks like, But God's gift, these older strains. Matt, do you think because you're got that background, do strains grow better in certain areas now? Since we're talking about the best place to grow, is it the best strain locations to grow?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's strains that evolved indoors. I mean, they were bred indoors, grown indoors, right? So they're set up for that. I've found that you bring them outdoors, they work fine too. But yeah, there's strains that favor different environments. But overall, it's all about the proper fertilization, bright, maximum ventilation, and it's pretty straightforward with most strains. I mean, I've done enough, production in my past to see fields of 50 different strains, and you can treat them all the same way, and they all perform. Now, could you cater to one strain more than another and get it to express more? Yes, you can do that. But I don't think it's move it towards the coast. I don't think it's move it up north, and I'm not even sure it means move it indoors either.
But a lot comes down to the grower, right? The farmer himself, the person paying attention to the plant and thinking about it, because you do have to be reactive sometimes to her.
Yeah, but the number one dilemma, the number one error of new farmers is overanalyzing everything. I mean, yeah. So it's like you start reading those books and you start looking at phosphorus deficiency, and you're looking at the leaves and you're going, "That's what it is. Let's give it."
And they never say it's the pH imbalance. And then the messed up thing.
Yeah, it's keep it simple, folks. That's what I think.
Nice. So what? Let's go back into the cocktails and the bar atmosphere that you're bringing this brand out at. What's your signature product drink?
I don't think we have like here's the drink, right? It's like if you were to, but I guess, if you were to ask Hendrick's Gin what their drink is, it's probably a gin and tonic or something, right? I know that with Purewanna, as the guy that's consumed probably more than anybody on the planet, I gravitate towards premium light tonic and club soda with lots of bubbles, like a Topo Chico has a lot of bubbles in it, right? And do 50-50. That way it's available usually at every bar, at every store you can get this stuff. It's two things to mix on ice in a bucket. And it also allows the strain to come through. I really would like the flavor of the strain and the aroma of the strain. I don't want to mask it. There's several recipes on our website, though, that if you want to get crazy, you can do all sorts of stuff.
Nice.
Really tasty, recipes some that mask the strain and some that don't.
Oh man, I really enjoy the taste of strains as well. That would be fascinating. What's the process that you guys use to be able to lock in the terp profile of that strain then?
Well, it starts with the strain, starts with growing that strain to peak performance, which means you got to have a good cultivator, you got to have the right environment, and it's got to be picked the right day. So many people pick way too early, and then we cryogenically freeze it right then, right? So that's locking it in time. The process by which we make the concentrate does not apply any pressure or heat, and then we make an emulsion. Food grade or certified organic ingredient emulsion. And then we take that and we dry it in a proprietary drying method that also does not use any heat to adulterate the compounds that are really bringing forth the unique aroma, smell, and effect of that cultivar.
How do you approach decarboxylation then?
Wow, that's a very good technical question. I can tell you that we're not decarboxylating terpenes at all.
Well, I think your emphasis on, but you said it twice already, though. You said you don't apply heat, right? Isn't that essential to?
You have to apply heat to THCA to decarboxylate it, but we don't apply heat to any volatile. THC is a rugged chemical. Yeah. You can beat it up.
You can also isomerize it. So CBD is too, and this is the big debate that we have now. It's like, well, it's hemp. Yeah, well, let's spin it into some D8. Boom. And then they're like, oh, it's not Delta 9. And that's fascinating. Is there a 2-pass system that you use in your extraction then, like a subcritical and a supercritical to separate the terps from the THC?
There's multiple steps, where there's a separation process.
Sweet. Neat. Then when you could you say cryogenically freeze it? So are you using shocking with nitrogen right away when it comes out? And then my question is, when you do the because I think most people don't understand, to get to the point to where you're at, you turn into a concentrate essentially. You're going from like the flower to like say is it like a shatter or is it like a
it's a live concentrate.
Is it? Nice. I'm just so amazed. Like it's kind of like popcorn, when you watch it get all happening. Like when you watch a plant get squeezed into live resin, you're like, that fucking happens? That's so amazing.
Yeah. When you first see live resin, that is pretty interesting. It's like, wait, like if I was really strong, I could just pick up weed and like squeeze it out. No way,
you think you guys are talking rosin?
Oh,
well, yeah, rosin.
Yeah, not resin.
Yeah, the premium live rosins take liquid nitrogen. Well, what you do is you take fresh flower and you make cold water hash, right? And then you take that trichome material that gets separated from the hash and you put it into a freeze dryer, and then you take that and put it in a tea bag, and then you press that under the heated press, and then out comes the honey, which is the live rosin.
Yeah.
But you don't have to go through all that process, right? You can just put it into a heated 2 clamps and it'll squeeze it out. Like when people use I'm talking like cheapy, generic.
You can
science bitches, yeah.
You're not going to get very good rosin by pressing a fresh flower.
Yeah. No, and not with just your measly human hands. I mean,
no, I got a hair straightener. You got to put it between a hair straightener. One of those clamp ones. It'll work.
Yeah,
first way I ever did it.
That's amazing. Hey, we have a game we play sometimes, and I know you guys have a strain that you use. Should we play strain today?
Sure.
Magic.
Uh-oh. Matt has been turned into a strain. And now Miggy has been turned into a strain. So now I have been turned into a strain. So, Matt, how would you describe that strain?
It looks like commercial grade, potentially indoor. I don't know. It could be greenhouse. It's the way it's been trimmed. It's really hard to tell what kind of cultivar it is.
You'd be amazed at some of these people. You'd be amazed at some of these guys that can guess it pretty well. I'm not one to look at a bud and know like, okay, the lighter, there's no hunter green. It's mostly of a light green with bracts that are closely, like you said, trimmed across of it. So it looks like a type nug. Yeah. But some people amaze me when they can look at something and go, oh, that's all the white trichomes. I mean, it's got nice little, a little white on there,
But it looks furry.
Oxidization, which is where the brown hue is coming from. You know, to me, it looks like commercial weed.
Now, what do you think about the ripeness of it?
You know, honestly, dude, I would smoke it, but I'm not a grower. I'm not like Matt. Matt said it was plucked too soon, and I'd have to. Matt's the kind of guy whose weed I would fucking love to smoke. Like, you're oh shit, already? See, these guys are like Rain Man.
Yeah,
Raphael, how?
Yep, got lemon skunk out of nowhere. We didn't even have to give hints.
Just
it's not
lemon
skunk. Well, you guys know what it is. I was told what it was earlier.
Yeah.
Right, and that's one of your guys's. So I imagine now, each strain. Do you have any mixes? Like, do you mix them up sometimes? Like, oh, here's some lemonades with the X-Stage or 3. You know,
that's actually something that's starting to happen at the bar, where one of the bartenders pioneered, hey, you can dust the rim with this stuff. Right?
like margaritas.
And then you put the powder to your mouth, and it's explosive, the flavor that comes through. So now we're mixing the strains on the rim, right? To get that effect. You certainly can drink Purewanna. You can be drinking on a super lemon haze and have this kind of hazy traditional high, and then switch to like a Blue Dream, which is really racy and uplifting, or switch to like a Venom OG, which is very relaxing. And in real time, you can steer your high around. You can't really do that with smoking as much.
Now, what about the metabolic pathways then? Because this sounds more like an edible, but it's a peculiar edible, or a novel one at least. What's the processing time of drinking it?
So we don't consider ourselves an edible, right? I think we need new nomenclature in the business now. This is a new category. Right, emulsion-based tech is by definition the good emulsion's not really an edible, right? Because the edible is that 1100 hydroxy high. But in terms of metabolizing this, we're bypassing first-pass metabolism, so it's not,
it's not hitting your liver.
Yeah, it's not this wait and have it kick in later on thing. It's rapidly absorbed. You're feeling it in real time. It behaves very similar to alcohol in terms of onset and offset. It's a predictable experience, and you drink as many cocktails as you want to drink to when you get there. And the doses of the cocktails are dosed that way too, right? So we have the 2.5s, 5s, and 10s, milligram drinks. So, if you're somebody who's a experienced cannabis user, you're probably drinking the 10s, right? Or you maybe a double 10, to start the night. But if you're brand new to to this, you're starting off with like a 2.5. The idea is you drink until you get to where you want to be.
What about like, can we do a nano emulsion with like a hops extract to kind of like mix that in to give it, and like you mix it with a seltzer to give it more like a beer flavor, or does it already have a fairly beer flavor, or just more like, weed? It
tastes just like premium live resin does when you dab it.
Nice.
Purewanna tastes like, and every sip too, right? As long as you're not making it in a cocktail that's masking the flavor. You mix it with Coca-Cola, you're not going to taste anything. It's going to taste like Coca-Cola. It's a very delicate. The flower is very delicate. Those flavors are delicate. I feel like I'm missing a question you asked me. Is there still a pending question?
No, I think you're good.
Okay.
No, I think it would be fantastic, because then, in each one of these, because like you process it for like extending its shelf life as well. How long would it stay good in that it's not a nano emulsion, that emulsion form before it's been mixed?
You mean the powder form?
Yes.
Yeah, in the powder, it's stable for years.
Wow.
And it's very light to ship. So one of the things people ask us, they're like, all right, you guys are trying to pioneer this cannabis spirits category. You're calling it dry spirits. Why not just put it in a fifth, like the alcohol people do, and make it look like booze, right? That'd be a lot easier for marketing, right? You wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. Well, the reality is that water's the enemy.
Yeah,
we don't have a natural preservative in here. Booze is a preservative. Alcohol is a preservative. So you got to think about it like fresh squeezed juice, right? Like, how do you preserve fresh squeezed juice? It's really, really hard to do that. Even the most premium juices out there, like Odwalla or something like that, it's still pasteurized. It's still got cold chain distribution, right? So it's very problematic to try to pioneer the cannabis spirits category in liquid. you can do it, but you're not going to have the strain specific stuff, right? You're going to have a lot of preservatives. You're going to have a lot of sugar, and we're all about just the minimal thing we can do to give you the plant, and then you build the cocktail.
I think you have a good point though, as far as like getting a new category for at least your product, right? Because you have that powder form, and I've seen it many times here in Washington State. It's been one of the evolving markets during medical times. We've seen infused toothpicks and other stuff that other states are like, "Whoa, this is brand new." You're like, "Nah, man, some dude thought about that. He just was selling it out of this garage in the side dispensary because he doesn't have the money in pockets." But I would think like your product should be considered like super extracts, like a concentrate, super concentrate, where at the end product is just the flower. My question to you though is like, how much are these packets like for the 10 milligram? How much? Yeah, there we go. What are we looking at?
Thank you, Wilco Pillar.
We so we sell it in boxes of 10, and those boxes will MSRP for the 2.5 meg box, the sticks that are 2.5 shots. Those are about $15 MSRP. For the reds, which are the 10 milligrams, which is 100 megs a box, those are about 22. So you're talking anywhere from $1.50 to $2.20 per drink.
Bad.
No, that's not $9 cocktail night.
Well, the lounges can buy that wholesale though, and sell $12 cocktails all day long.
See, but I want that. Because when I talk to people about cannabis retail, I'm like, there's something missing in cannabis retail. How come I just can't go to the bar and be like, no, I just want a chillum of the lemon haze, please? And that's all I wanted. I wanted to enjoy it here. I didn't want the whole eighth, and then it's got to be prepackaged and everything for $70 and get out of here.
Yep.
Well, the lounge experience is constantly defining itself. Like here in Washington, it started out with bring your own product. The guy supplied the place, and then what you were paying for was like the drinks that he sold in the back, or even the concentrates. People around us would sell concentrates, and you could buy your product there, and then you rent a dab rig. But there was no like drinks, which I think would be great to have, like an infused, and then like you're saying, Matt, like nobody wants to go eat just an infused dinner every day. Like, I mean, great, sounds cool, but I mean,
I think we in the cannabis culture, we in the cannabis community, we're used to all these different modalities and things like that. But I'd argue that a good 70-80% of the addressable market isn't us, right? It's the rest of the people out there, and those people are used to drinking. And the truth is, we're also used to drinking. Most people really are used to drinking their recreational products.
Even if you're not used to drinking, during the evening, you might be like, what, I'm thirsty. I'm going to have some water or some we're used to drinking as a species. Like, did you drink enough water today? It's something that we do, so that if you could turn that experience into something that incorporates the cannabis plant, that's kind of different. I mean, I have never heard of that aspect of it. How old is this technology, or how novel,
There's several elements of the technology that have been around for a while. However, there are a couple components that we had to invent to make this possible. So there is some proprietary tech inside pulling this off. Has a lot to do with the drying process.
That's awesome. And so you have some trade secret or some patentability on this method, and it's brand new. And so, like, I have never gotten to have one of these products in the state of Illinois.
We are not in Illinois,
right,
and don't plan to be in Illinois until the walls come down and we can ship it to you.
Well, let's tune in 4 years when Cannabis Legalization News reports live from Cannabis Legalization News of the 2025, whenever the heck they're actually going to vote on this. Hey, what do you think Chuck Schumer means by soon? Because so far it's 4.5 months.
I don't know. I've been wrong so many times on guessing this stuff. I just don't even dare to bet anymore. But I could tell you, like, this is the closest it's ever been. Like the momentum now. I mean, we're definitely way over the hump. And we get the MORE Act to pass, and then all of a sudden institutional money shows up, And then who's the biggest lobby in DC? It's not the weed lobby, it's the bank lobby. You know, so it feels very much like we're at the very end of this, you know, getting across the finish line.
Yeah, but how much of it's going to get tied up and like taken by the MSO types that are like, okay, we're going to have our big, beautiful public offering finally, and then they'll all merge and they'll be like Budweiser, and then I don't know how they're going to maintain that. Like, if your business model is limited market, and you can start shipping your product to people that have licenses and interstate commerce, like you can if it's legal. I don't understand how the MSOs are going to be able to survive.
It's a good it's a question I've always had in my head too, and I don't know if they've got a plan to just keep their state distribution on lockdown. But yeah, I mean, if the people in Illinois want to be smoking Cali weed when it's legal, I'm pretty sure they're going to get it. And if Amazon wants to ship it over there, I'm pretty sure Amazon's going to figure out how to ship it over there.
Yeah, and there might be a good grower in Illinois who people like gets renowned and like, hey, I want to try that guy's weed. Only if he can export it one day, and that's the problem. I think the MSOs already shot themselves in the foot. Matt, you're in a perfect position that you control your product. You know your product. You run your chain, and then once that one day available comes about, all you got to do is export. All these other cats are looking at each other like, how are you going to run the show? How are you going to run the show?
Well, they get a different game plan right now. Their game plan is be the biggest, the fastest, right? Yeah. You know, and when you're $1 billion company and you have assets, you know, idle assets sitting in multiple states, you probably can find a financial way to get out from underneath that. You know, buy some California companies and sell off your real estate. I'm sure they'll figure it out. Yeah. Just like the Canadians are figuring it out. They're way over their skis with all the infrastructure they've invested in.
It's kind of funny though, isn't it? I just kind of wonder why they have to be so bad at, like, you know, it's free markets. You see, like, if you just would have said, here's how you get a license, this would have happened normally. Yeah. You know, you didn't have to rig this and be like, no, it's got to be completely top down. We got to own the entire supply. Where did they learn this game?
Yeah, well, I think it's, you know, not to point all the blame at them. You know, this whole industry, and this is why California is such a freaking mess too, is that, you know, we had to allow certain areas to opt out. We had to allow certain areas to tax at will. We had to sell the legislature on, you know, hey, this is going to make us a bunch of money. And here we are. Now we're in an overregulated, overtaxed situation. But that was because of prohibition, largely, not because like there was some, you know, guy behind the curtain, you know, planning this all out, right? Like, sweet, I'm making it difficult for everybody but me. I don't see that. That scenario. I do see that, you know, the more complex a supply chain is and a business is, it favors the bigger companies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, there's been a lot of give and take. Oh, hey, Lauren.
Hey, sorry to cut you off. I was just going to say, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. You know, it's Pride Month. People are drinking a lot. This would be like the thing to drink, but can't get it in Illinois, so that kind of sucks. But thank you so much.
Come on out to Cali and we'll take care of you.
Hell yeah, I'm down.
I'm serious.
October.
If you guys are in Cali, just let me know and I'll get you guys taken care of.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I'll be there in October. Yeah.
And thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you like and subscribe to keep up with all cannabis legalization news. We will see you on Sunday.
Cheers, everybody.
Yeah.